Hey everybody, my name is Clint and we're here today to take a look at the Rokinon 85mm f1.4 lens for the Sony Alpha mount. As you all know, the 85mm Rokinon is a manual focus lens only. It does not have autofocus, which means we have to become a little bit more engaged in the photography process, or the process of taking a picture, which is a very good thing actually. We learn more about composition, we learn more about exposure, we learn more about the artistic manner of taking pictures when we're more involved in the photographic process. Yeah, granted, auto everything is wonderful, it's fast, it allows us to take more pictures more quickly, but if we're really trying to improve our photography, it's best to slow everything down and move into manual mode and take our time to really examine exposure, using the exposure triangle of ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, and look at what's involved in taking a more appealing and engaging photograph. So with the Rokinon 85, you have the opportunity to do all of that. The Alpha 99 body, for starters, is the lightest DSLR currently on the market today. It weighs in at, and no, I did not remember all the specifications, but the A99 body weighs 1.8 pounds or 860 grams, depending upon which side of the weighing scale you're on, which means that it's really very light. And right now I have the SLT-A99V Carl Zeiss lens mounted to it. And this baby here weighs a lot. The Zeiss lens weighs 2.7 pounds, or almost an entire kilogram, which, needless to say, it's very, very heavy. It's a fabulous lens. It's a great piece of glass. Autofocus is sharp and fast on this guy, except in low light situations. It slows down a little bit. But it is a tack sharp lens, and it's also $1,998 from B&H Photo today. By contrast, the Rokinon only costs $269, and it has a lot less glass in it than the 2470 does. It uses 9 elements in 7 groups, and the 24-70 is 17 elements in 13 groups. Obviously this is a zoom lens also, so a lot more stuff is going on in here. The good news about the A99 body is that the image stabilization is on the inside, so we're not dealing with the extra weight of stabilization in either of the two lenses. What I really, really like about the Rokinon lens is the fact that it's small. So if I want to go out and shoot street with my A99, I can do so and not be quite as conspicuous with the Rokinon 85. The 85mm Rokinon also is an f1.4 lens, which is a huge difference from the f2.8 aperture on the A90 on the 24-70. So for low light shooting, this lens captures way more light than the 24-70 does. In terms of image quality, this lens is fantastic. Some of the low light shots that I've gotten with this lens are incredible. I shot a band in a small club with terrible lighting, got tack sharp images, but only because I've taken the time to practice with this lens before going and doing a critical shoot. At f1.4, the depth of field is extremely, extremely shallow, so focusing has to be precise. The good news is the A99 body has focus peaking, and the way I use the focus peaking feature on the A99 is to turn the resolution of the focus peaking down to its lowest possible setting. So when it confirms focus by outlining the subject in focus, the width of the outline from the focus peaking is as thin as it can be. And the reason why I do this is so that I can see all the edge detail possible while still getting some kind of focus confirmation from the A99 body. This lens is available for Canon and Nikon as well, and you can also get focus confirmation chips for the two other manufacturers when purchasing this lens. You can't get that for Sony. They don't make one. And from the reviews that I've seen online, the focus confirmation is an aid when using those chips on the other two bodies, just like the focus peaking is an aid to focus on the A99. It is not a solid guarantee that your subject is in focus. And that's what I mean about slowing down and really taking the time to work with this lens, because the results that you can get from this lens are fantastic, and at $269, it's almost a no-brainer. Everybody ought to have one of these things. The Carl Zeiss 85mm autofocus for the A99 or A77, I think, is about $2,000 also. You can look it up and see for yourself. But really, it's the quality of the images that can be gotten from such an inexpensive lens, and I'll be posting some pictures to go along with this little review. But it really does take some time to learn. The light meter works fine in camera with the A99 with this lens mounted. It has a manual aperture setting ring which is clicked. You won't get any aperture readings in your EXIF data on the A99 because there is no communication between the lens and the body. So you'll have to look and see where you're at when you're taking pictures. And you know, if you want to get really deep background blur or bokeh, you can use the lower apertures, 5.6 or less. If you want to make sure everything is in focus, you can go up to f8 or f11 and get really beautifully crisp, sharp images more easily than if you're using the wider apertures. But the reason why we buy this lens is for what it does at the lower apertures like f1.4. I use a lens filter with this, a UV haze, just to protect it, but it is a fabulous, fabulous piece of glass, and when I go out street shooting for certain, it is this lens that stays attached. The focusing ring feels great. The build quality overall feels very, very good. And one thing I noticed when I was working with this lens, I used to have an 85 f1.2L series on my old Canon 1D Mark II, and that critter didn't focus very, very quickly at all. And in using this lens, I notice I can focus just at about the same speed as the old Canon f1.2 did and get the same kind of results, or sometimes even better, because that was a hard beast to autofocus as well. I would imagine the version 2 is much better, but still, when we're working at such wide apertures, like f1.2, f1.4, even f1.8, depth of field is very, very shallow and demands critical focusing. It's a fun lens, it's inexpensive, I love it on my A99 body, and it really is an engaging process because it slows me down. I have to consider my exposure, I have to consider my f-stop, I have to consider ISO and shutter speed all put together to get some very cool images, but it takes a lot of practice. At wide apertures like f1.4, this lens is not easy to shoot with, especially if the subjects are moving. But in time, the rewards from what this lens yields are tremendous, and I highly recommend it. Enjoy the review. Comments are always welcome. Clint Cap, Clint Cap Photography, www.clintcap.com. Thank you very much.